Welcome to Unfiltered Health, where we dive deep into the real stories, science, and struggles shaping modern health. Your host, Dr. Sean Hall, is an internationally recognized author, medical researcher, and lecturer. Join me as we strip away the noise and explore how chronic illnesses are impacting not just our bodies, but the very fabric of our social and human function. This isn't your typical health talk. Here, it's raw, it's real, and it's time we talk about the hard truths. Ready to rethink health? Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Today is very special. I'd like you to meet Lewis. So world, please meet Lewis. Lewis is a friend, a colleague, and in many cases, he has been a mentor to me. Lewis is actually Professor Lewis Fateta from the University of Sydney. We have worked together in various formats for 20 plus years, but where Lewis fundamentally differs to me is Lewis is a working doctor, and Lewis has taken on some wonderful research projects and very much to the heart of the topic around chronic diseases. So Lewis, say hi to everyone.
Hello, everybody.
So we are, for those listening, doing this via Google Meets. The audio is a little shaky. We'll do what we can to sort of fix it up, but this is raw. It is live. It is unedited. So Lewis, why don't you start, expand a little bit about your background, talk about your passion in complementary medicines and how you as a doctor have integrated them into some of your chronic disease patients or clinical study profiles that you've taken.
Okay, I've got a very broad profile in my career in medicine. I'm an avid researcher more than anything, but I have worked for a very long time with integrative medicine clinicians, looking at integrative medicine more than complementary medicine, all right? Because my idea has always been that there's one medicine, and complementary medicine seems to be talking about another kind of medicine. Integrative medicine talks about another kind of medicine. It's all one medicine. And what I've always looked at with the clinicians that I've worked with is to focus on the patient, the whole person, and not just the illness or the disease. And in that respect, the people that I've worked with seek to understand the underlying causes of the symptoms or the condition that the patients present with, so that by looking at the complete person, one can address issues of mind, body, medicine, and spirit. That might sound a little bit far out, but it's not. There is a lot of evidence-based approach to improving one's health and wellness today. You can go on reputable sites on the internet, and you will find that there are a lot of modalities associated with iron deficiency during pregnancy. Iron deficiency, anemia in pregnancy, vitamin D deficiencies. What can we do about curbing the epidemic of obesity? Looking at social determinants of health in healthy school meals, because usually obesity has got an early childhood trend upwards. So I think that the first key thing is diet, in terms of the maintenance of health, which is crucial in the prevention and management of many diseases, and particularly metabolic diseases such as type 2 diabetes, chronic kidney disease, cardiovascular disease, and even cancer. So it's important to look at dietary interventions that are based on sound clinical evidence, and this requires nutritional professionals working possibly with clinicians, all right, to be able to apply the evidence-based approach in individuals. And there are numerous position papers that one can actually search on the internet and be able to understand what the focus of how dietary recommendations are formulated for different populations. It might be different for a Southern European as to what it is to a Northern European, for the prevention of non-communicable diseases.
Chronic diseases, yeah.
And the chronic diseases that is in the Western world, it's an epidemic proportion. If you look at the United States, they've got an obesity rate of about 60 to 70% in adults.
Oh yeah, the prevalence data is across the chronic disease segment is shocking. But can I just get you to pause for a sec there? You've said some really interesting things, right? Most people who are listening to this and are in standard care probably by now realize that traditional medicine is siloed, right? You go see a gastroenterologist because you have a problem with your gut. You go see a cardiologist because you have a problem with your heart, right? I know I'm being super simplistic, right? The type of medicine you're talking about, this integrative approach, this total body care, it's not a new topic. I get there is a lot of marketing hype and conjecture around that by some more nefarious companies, but it's a very real topic. And for those people that know me who are listening, I've been a firm believer in what's called integrative care plans. Yes, you might be in a situation where you need an oncologist to treat your cancer, or you need a cardiologist to treat, a problem with your heart. But it shouldn't start and stop there. I think where Lewis is going is there are other problems, there are other multifactorial issues that need to be taken on board to give you, the patient, probably the best chance in pulling through and returning, especially when we talk about some of the more serious chronic diseases, returning a more quality aspect as far as quality of life is concerned.
Yeah.
I think also this is a great place to segue, because traditionally when we talk about chronic diseases, seldom the word cure or curative comes up. The word that always does come up is manageability, right? And to that, we touched on cancer very, very slimly. I was watching a podcast with a good friend of ours, and I mean no disrespect saying that, I'm not being funny, Professor Avni Sali. And he was with one of the integrative dentists we know, Rob, and Rob's surname forgets me. I forget it at the moment. But Avni was talking about healthy versus unhealthy cancer patients, which I understand exactly where Avni's coming from, and I can see his point. But I think from a patient point of view, it's kind of the wrong thing to put on the flagpole, because virtue of cancer itself is an unhealthy relationship within the body. In my world, you have well-managed cancer patients, and then you have ill-managed cancer patients and everything in between, right? And it's easy to understand that a well-managed cancer patient has these integrative, let's call them care plans, that talks to diet, talks to moderation in exercise because we're getting them back on their feet, talks about maybe other psychofactors in the mental health area, because most patients will have a high probability of developing a mental health issue once that cancer diagnosis has been confirmed. And we see something similar in other types of chronic diseases as well. So I don't know, do you have any viewpoint on standard care now when we think what that is across some of these chronic diseases, deficiencies in standard care, and if I was a patient of yours and I lacked the understanding I lacked now, are there stories you could share with me that would help give me some insight to help me take control over my own health problems, but more so ask the right questions, work with my team, and my team being a integrative medical team, and where there was deficiencies, kind of have an idea on knowing where to look to seek that other help. And I say that because today, if I bring up my Instagram channel or I bring up my LinkedIn channel, I have lifestyle coaches, I have health coaches. I mean, these aren't qualified people. I have cancer support groups, obesity support groups, cardiovascular support groups, and all this stuff under the sun. I mean, if I was a patient and I was already freaking out because a diagnosis I was not prepared for was being made, and I turned to Google, I'd probably develop anxiety.
Okay. Right? Sean, there's a mountain of stuff to unpack here.
There is, isn't there?
With this, yeah, absolutely. The first thing that needs to happen is that people need to understand that prevention is better than cure. There is no magic bullet.
Correct.
And so if a patient shows up to an integrative clinic to speak to some integrative medicine clinician, those clinicians need to then get an idea, a baseline idea of where these people are. Do they have any underlying symptoms? Do they have a fatty liver? Do they have a dysbiotic gut? Do they have anxiety issues? Do they have depression, mood disorders? There's a number of different things that patients do present to a clinician at, let's call it, at a screening visit. All right. They've never gone to a doctor, but they're going to go now and see someone because they've got some abdominal pain or they've got some issue. Okay.
Sure.
So clinicians need to first get an understanding as to where this patient is. Okay. And let's say that there's nothing wrong with them. They've just got a bit of, gastrointestinal problems, which can be easily fixed. Right. That brings into play now a holistic approach to wellness where the patient needs to understand what is a prudent interventional dietary practice to prevent disease, some physical activity that needs to be carried out because sedentary associations are clearly shown to be adverse for health.
Correct.
So you need good dietary interventions, evidence-based, some physical activity. That doesn't mean that everybody's got to go and run a marathon every day. It's not that. But you've got to move. And you've got to have some good mental health. And good mental health begins by the patient giving themselves some sort of a reward on a daily basis. Good nutrition, prudent physical activity and nutrition, and something that makes them happy. And now, once that is understood, with all the questions that patients bring to the meeting, is that 70% has to happen on the other side of the table.
Explain that. That's a good point, but explain that.
Well, it's got to happen. The patient's got to be a willing participant in their own health wellness.
Correct.
No one can prescribe them a happy pill. No one can prescribe them a physical activity pill. No one can prescribe them a pill whereby if you take care of your dietary guidelines as prescribed by a clinician who is using an evidence-based approach, evidence-based nutrition provision guidance, okay? Not just airy-fairy stuff, all right? And there's a lot of this stuff that's been published on the internet that people can actually access freely, all right? And that has to be put into play. And patients then need to adopt the idea that they need to take their body to the mechanic on a 6-monthly basis to check themselves out. Blood pressure is an enormous problem. Hypertensive patients running around with blood pressures 10, 20 points above what it's supposed to be and waiting for the bomb to go off is not a way to maintain wellness. So when patients take a critical primary approach to their health maintenance, prevention is possible, healthy lives are possible. You can actually probably give a whole bunch of chronic diseases a big miss, but you've got to be a willing participant. If you're not a willing participant, sorry, all bets are off.
Well, that stands true.
So that's okay. Hang on a minute. That's the first bit. There will always be the need for a gastroenterology mechanic, a cardiovascular mechanic, a kidney mechanic, a brain mechanic. There's always going to be a cancer mechanic. There's always going to be this because these people are requisites in the health maintenance protocol. You can't be diagnosed with a metastatic carcinoma of the pancreas and hope that that a bit of nutrition is going to help. It's going to have to require standard medical practice as well as putting into practice other additional adjunctive integrative possibilities that could actually help that patient navigate their quality of life as they manage treatment modalities to reduce the burden of the disease and possibly I mean, stage 4 pancreatic adenocarcinoma of the pancreas is really not a good example, all right, because it's got a very low life expectancy. But other things, like, for example, someone has a heart attack, you're going to have to do the standard things, but you're going to have to be able to also manage your mental health, your stresses, manage your physical activity, manage what you put in your mouth that puts you 50, 60 kilos overweight, and then that ended up giving you a bit of a heart attack or a stroke. So there's a whole bunch of things. I know I'm moving all over the place.
But it's a big topic. It is a big topic.
Yeah, look, it's a big topic. Maybe we should just, focus on one thing only. But the thing that I like about this is, if I was to give you or any patient a choice, do you want to prevent disease or do you want to have a heart attack? I'm sure that everybody's going to say, I want to prevent a heart attack. And prevention requires input. It's not going to happen automatically.
My only concern with a statement like that, and we use a heart attack as an example, is even from the late 80s, you might remember here in Australia, we had, what was it, Life Be In It, with that cartoon character Norm, and he covered a number of aspects, right? But it was about becoming active in life, getting moving, getting away from that trend, which was more sedentary because of office jobs and computers and all that stuff. And I think that there has been a lot of public health globally around prevention for a heart attack as opposed to the event. But for whatever reason, it hasn't worked. Now, either
Why?
people...
Wait a minute. Why hasn't it?
That I don't know. I could give you 3 or 4 reasons.
Because it's too hard.
Well, that could be one.
It's too hard. This is why I said before, if you want to prevent, 70% has got to happen on the other side of the table, and the patient has to be a willing participant in their health maintenance. Otherwise it's not going to happen. Okay? There's no magic pill.
Say that again. I need you to say that again, because a lot of people believe 2 truisms. A, medicine should be free and there's a silver bullet for everything. And you and I know that's not true.
There is no silver bullet. Where is it? Can you give me a few? Send me a few. There aren't any. The only silver bullet that there is in the patient's brain. When they decide, they get up one morning and they decide, that's it. I'm going to lose 20 kilos. This is not my ideal weight. I'm going to go and talk to an integrative medicine clinician if there is one, or just a standard general practitioner. Most general practitioners today talk to patients about their health. They talk to them about their weight. They talk to them about their blood pressure. As soon as you go to a GP, the first thing that they'll do is they'll weigh you. They'll see how much weight you've got. They'll talk to you about your weight. They'll talk to you about what you're eating, and they'll take a blood pressure measurement, and they'll even do a blood screen. Just to get an idea, how your blood is and how your kidneys are working, how's the liver, all of this, okay? Standard stuff. And they will talk to you about your diet, especially if you've got 20, 30 kilos overweight and you're supposed to be 72 kilos and you're actually 130. It's crazy. It's crazy. What I would hope is that someone would talk nicely to patients and say, listen, this is in your hands. I can help you. I can show you what you need to do and what can be done, but you need to be a willing participant in your health wellness outcomes. Otherwise, it's not. Well, you talked about Norm. Well, how many years ago? 2 decades, 3 decades ago?
At least.
Was anyone paying attention? Because obesity is out of control. Well, can you explain that?
Actually, all the chronic diseases are out of control now.
Well, the chronic diseases are out of control because we are failing to understand this action. All right?
You need to explain that. Remember, they can't see us.
Oh, right. Okay. Well,
the
action of putting food in your mouth. All right? I think that we have enough evidence today to be able to talk to patients that they need to be eating vegetables and fruits on a daily basis, and that there are certain types of foods that are not good for someone that is 20, 30 kilos overweight.
Agreed.
All right. I remember in the University of Sydney some years ago when we did a study on type 2 diabetics, early diagnosed type 2 diabetics, and the nutritional intervention that we did for those people versus a standard diet. And the ones on the nutritional intervention, well, they all got nutritional intervention, but what we also addressed is gut issues. And the ones that we addressed the gut issues versus placebo, because everybody got a nutritional intervention, it was exactly the same. They actually lost significant amount of weight and improved their marker for diabetes, which is HbA1c, the glycosylated hemoglobin. Okay, and that is an incredible outcome in helping gut issues that were concerning to the patients because they were overweight, they were in an early stage of diabetes. Okay, and actually when they addressed it and they became willing participants in their healthcare, we reversed it. We reversed early diagnosed type 2 diabetics. And as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know today, those patients still maintain that outcome.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for patients that are willing to participate in their health, put into practice evidence-based nutritional practices that have been scientifically and clinically documented to work, working with doctors, working with nutritionists, working with naturopaths. Why not? They were the ones that actually started talking to us about gut health, and gut health is important. Some doctors don't understand gut health. Well, fine, okay. Work with a naturopath that understands that, educated naturopaths that have got university degrees that understand gut health. So working together in a team like that can help improve gut function for inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, even cardiovascular, lowering the risk of cardiovascular problems, improving chronic kidney disease problems that seem to begin in the gut and burn the kidney out over several decades, from early adulthood.
Well, look, let me just summarize this for our listeners. One thing I do want to mention, ladies and gentlemen, Lewis is one of the top human microbiome researchers, not just in Australia, in the world. A lot of the learnings we have about the understanding of the human microbiome, specifically the gut microbiome, the effects of bacteria in the gut, byproducts of the gut that affect end organ function, has really come from Lewis and his various teams over the past, Lewis, I don't want to show your age, so I'll be kind and say 3 decades. He's laughing, everyone. But I think when we generally talk chronic diseases, there are some themes that are developing here. Medicine can do so much. An integrative approach with good specialists, and I'm going to emphasize who works together, and I'll come back to that in a minute, who work together give you the best shot in better management, if not potential reversing the situation. Getting on this earlier rather than later is obviously a no-brainer as well. The longer you leave it, the worse things get, right? Absolutely. So in saying that, Lewis keeps reiterating the patient needs to take charge. The patient needs to be responsible for their health journey. You can't stick your head in the sand and expect some guy or woman in a white coat to be able to give you everything snap, snap, now. You heard him say there's no silver bullet. So it's not just me saying this, right? So educate, look for reputable sites, look for good factual information, but start that conversation with the healthcare provider that you trust.
Absolutely. Now, very well said.
Yeah. Now, we've experienced patients that have multiple healthcare providers who don't know the other existed. Avoid this like the plague, right? You need your healthcare team to understand the treatment that you are on and any changes made to it, because this is about you. It's your time. It's your money. It's your health. And as Lewis is basically saying, 70% of the health journey is going to be on you, the patient. Right? So outside that, I'd love to welcome Lewis back, and we can specifically jump into cancers and pains. and or mental health, and we'll talk about that another day. But for here and now, ladies and gentlemen, around the world, meet Lewis. Lewis, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks, Sean. Thanks very much. I hope people get something good out of all of this, because my primary objective has always been research in medicine and to prevent disease.
Perfect.
Not to cure, to prevent. But sometimes you have to cure, but mostly to prevent, because I think that that's the item that everybody wants. Nobody wants to get cancer. Nobody wants a heart attack. People want to prevent all of this, but you can't prevent it unless you participate. You got to participate.
I like that. So, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, World Meet Lewis. Talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.
See you, Sean. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Unfiltered Health. I hope today's episode gave you something to think about, because understanding our health means understanding our world. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to share Unfiltered Health with your friends, family, and anyone who cares about getting to the truth behind chronic illnesses and their impact on society. Together, we can break the silence and create a healthier future. See you next time.